Let's jump right into today's case study. We're looking at Patagonia, one of the most admired environmental companies in the world. We're going to unpack their unique approach to global supply chain management and see exactly how high-level corporate strategy ripples all the way down into international logistics. But before we get into their operations, I want you to think about this. In November 2025, Patagonia published its first ever full impact report. And right there on one of the opening pages, printed in huge text, was this exact sentence: "Nothing we do is sustainable." Now, as supply chain students, ask yourselves, why on earth would a marketing department approve such a brutally honest statement? And what does a paradox like that actually teach us about managing real-world international logistics? To figure that out, here's our roadmap for today. We'll look at who Patagonia is, their ownership and governance, the carbon footprint, circularity, the uncomfortable parts, and finally, what all this means for you in the Thai context. Let's get started. Section 1, who Patagonia is and their direct mission. Patagonia was founded back in 1973 by a guy named Yvon Chouinard. They started out just making climbing hardware, but today, it's a massive business, worth around $3 billion US. Now, their mission statement is incredibly simple. We are in business to save our home planet. In our supply chain language, that means the environmental objective sits at the very top of their strategy. It literally outranks financial growth targets. And we can see this consistent pattern of environmental commitment stretching way back. They pledged 1% of sales to environmental groups in 1985, all the way up to this new 2025 impact report. Now, to actually operate this way, Patagonia uses a very specific legal structure. Since 2012, they've been a certified B Corporation and a California Benefit Corporation. This is a really crucial concept to grasp. Think of it as their legal permission structure. You see, in a traditional company, directors are legally required to maximize profit for shareholders. But a benefit corporation changes the rules. It legally empowers directors to treat social and environmental impacts as equal priorities. It means they can make trade-offs for sustainability without the constant fear of being sued by shareholders for not maximizing profits. Section 2. Ownership and governance, and a pretty radical intervention. So, what does a company actually do with that legal freedom? Well, in September 2022, the Chouinard family did something unprecedented. They transferred 100% of their equity, their entire ownership stake, away from themselves. They split it into two buckets. Only 2% are voting shares. These hold all the decision-making power and belong to the Patagonia Purpose Trust, which exists strictly to protect that environmental mission. The other 98%? Those are non-voting shares. They carry the economic value, and they went to the Holdfast Collective, which is a not-for-profit fighting the environmental crisis. Practically, this means every dollar of profit not reinvested in the business, which is roughly $100 million US a year, is paid out as a dividend to fund environmental work. Like the founder said, Earth is now their only shareholder. Why does a supply chain manager care about all this? Well, it's about causality. Patagonia realized their whole sustainability strategy was vulnerable if the company's ownership ever changed hands, so they redesigned the ownership itself. Governance sits upstream of everything else. This redesigned ownership dictates the strategy, and that strategy then dictates every single procurement decision, every supplier contract, and every logistics choice. It never ever works the other way around. Section 3. The carbon footprint, which is where the real logistics lesson lives. Let me ask you a question. When you picture a massive global clothing retailer, where do you think their greenhouse gas emissions actually sit? Do they come from their retail stores, their delivery trucks, maybe their corporate offices? Here is the raw data. In their 2025 financial year, Patagonia's total carbon footprint was 182,646 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And, to be totally honest with you, that figure actually went up by about 2% compared to the previous year. Why? Because their product mix shifted towards items like heavy duffel bags, which just require more carbon-intensive materials to make. But look closely at this breakdown, because this is the most important number in this entire lecture: 92%. 92% of that total footprint comes entirely from raw materials and finished goods manufacturing. Only 8% comes from their own direct operations. That 92% represents what we call Scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 means emissions that happen outside the company's direct control, way upstream in the supply chain. Patagonia achieved 98% renewable energy in their own facilities, but their total emissions still went up. Why?
because fixing your own operations only touches a tiny fraction of the problem. The core lesson here is that if you don't have visibility and influence over your Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 suppliers, you simply do not control your emissions. That 92% is where the battle is won or lost.
So how is Patagonia responding? Well, it's a procurement-led response. They've committed to reaching net zero by 2040. And importantly, they explicitly reject standard carbon offset credits, like just paying to plant trees somewhere else, as their main strategy. Instead, they're using their buying power. They require a phase-out of coal energy at the supplier level, and they mandate the use of preferred lower-impact materials. The goal is to cut real physical emissions by about 10% per year. Section 4. Circularity, focusing on materials and repair.
Here's another question to consider. Can repairing a customer's old, torn jacket actually reduce an international supply chain's carbon emissions? Think deeply about the relationship here between reverse logistics, which is bringing a product back from the customer, and upstream manufacturing.
The data says yes. Through their worn wear program, Patagonia repaired and saved 174,799 items from becoming waste in just one single year. You might even remember their famous advertisement during a major shopping holiday. It just said, "Don't buy this jacket." It explained the environmental cost of the garment and literally asked people to only buy what they truly need. Alongside this, they've also successfully eliminated intentionally added perfluorinated chemicals. Those are the notorious forever chemicals from their fabrics. When we analyze this through a logistics lens, we see this isn't just some clever marketing campaign. It's a direct supply chain decision. Extending the life of a product through better design, repair, and resale directly reduces the demand for new production. And when you lower the demand for new production, you directly chip away at that massive 92% upstream carbon footprint we just talked about. So reverse logistics and repair capacity, those are vital, hard tools for hitting your carbon targets. Section 5. The uncomfortable parts, because we have to look at the failures too. As curious academics, we know a case study isn't a corporate promo video. We have to give equal weight to the failures disclosed in this report. Yes, they achieved 98% renewable energy in their own operations, and they use fair trade factories. But they set a target to use 100% preferred materials, and they missed it. They only reached 84.1%. As we saw, their overall emissions actually rose by 2%. Furthermore, while all their factories pay the legal minimum wage, only 39% pay a living wage. A living wage is the actual income a worker needs to cover basic living costs in their specific area. Closing that gap is proving incredibly difficult. And finally, circularity has physical limits. Unrepairable, dirty, destroyed gear is literally piling up in a distribution warehouse in Reno, Nevada right now. You simply cannot recycle everything. But here's the thing, sharing these failures is exactly what makes this report a real transparency tool rather than just a corporate victory lap. Throughout your careers, you're going to see a lot of greenwashing. That's when companies use vague language and buy cheap offsets just so they can claim they're carbon neutral. Patagonia explicitly abandoned their earlier carbon neutrality claims because they realized buying offsets just wasn't credible enough. Now, admitting that a previous claim was inadequate, that is a costly signal. It exposes them to criticism. But in supply chain reporting, costly signals are exactly what make a disclosure credible. Section 6. The Thai context, localizing this strategy. This brings up a really vital question for us today. Why should you, as a third-year undergraduate logistics student sitting here in Thailand, care about a Californian clothing company's corporate structure or their carbon report? What is your future role in this global equation? Well, you should care because Thailand sits squarely on the supply side of this exact equation. Thai and regional manufacturing factories are the Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. That means Thai factories are the physical locations where that massive 92% of global emissions is actually being generated. When a global buyer like Patagonia mandates a coal phase-out or requires certified sustainable materials, that global requirement travels straight down the supply chain. It lands on a desk here in Thailand, and it becomes a direct local capital investment decision for a Thai factory manager. So we end right where we began. Making a physical product always consumes something. The question is simply whether we are brave enough to measure it honestly. I want to leave you with 3 pivotal questions for your upcoming seminar discussion. Feel free to pause the screen and copy these down. Number 1, if 92% of your carbon footprint is upstream, what procurement mechanisms give you real leverage over suppliers you don't actually own? Number 2, is Patagonia's ownership model transferable to a normal publicly listed company, or does it only work because they're private? And number 3, If you were the manager of a Thai supplier factory and your global buyers suddenly demanded a living wage and a total coal phase-out, what resources and support would you need from them in order to say yes? Think critically about these, and I will see you in the seminar.